All right, so let's get started. Let's talk a little bit about one of the strategies. Let's talk about summarizing. Now, when we work in our groups, we won't typically summarize first. We'll usually predict first because you look at the title, you look at the pictures, you think about the genre, you think about the author, you predict based on those things, in addition to things that you see there. But summarizing is a good one to teach first because it's just a good reading skill as well. If you can't summarize something, which I also call finding the gist of something, then you probably didn't understand it and you're not going to be able to do any of the other things that you need to do with it in order to show that you understand it. So here's a definition, a shortened version, so summary should be short, of a text that is made up of only the important ideas. And it's deciding what's important that I can remember struggling with when I was a young person, mastering some of the reading strategies. And I've had students say to me, Miss, I don't know how to decide what's the most important thing. So hopefully we can help you with that a little bit here today. So first of all, you just need to understand what a topic is. I know that when you've heard the word topic, you write topic sentences in your paragraphs. Your teacher has probably told you to include a topic sentence. As a writer, you know it's important to tell your reader ahead of time what your idea is, and then you elaborate on that idea in the paragraph. You might pick a topic for a science fair project. You might get to pick a topic for a speech that you write. Topic is used in a lot of different places. When we're reading something and reflecting on it, topic is a 2-3 word phrase that all the text is talking about. So my science fair project, my topic might be plants or growing plants, something like that. That's certainly not the whole idea of the project. Think about it. I could do tons of things with growing plants as a topic. I could have a topic of a project be dogs, and I could do which treat does this dog like the best? Can I train my dog to know different colors? So, but the topic is still dog behavior, right? So it's short. The topic is short. And if you can't even identify that, you should be using some of those fix-up strategies. You should be rereading and trying to come up with that. So let's look at this. The topic is that 2 to 3 word phrase that all the text is talking about. And here's the question you ask yourself. Ask yourself, self, what are all these details talking about? Go back if you have to, sentence by sentence, and figure out what are they talking about here, what are they talking about there. Maybe you need to look up a word because you don't know what they're talking about. That's okay. You got to look it up, do that. But once you find that one thing that all the sentences seem to have in common, you've found the topic. Congratulations. So let's look at this example. When a cat feels threatened, its whole body shows how it feels. It arches its back, its hair stands on end. The cat might even pull its ears back and make a hissing sound. Think about what the topic is. Okay, well, let's go through it. Cat feels threatened. Its whole body shows how it feels. What are they talking about in there? A cat and its body, right? It arches its back. Its hair stands on end. So what's it talking about? It is the cat. Its back is the cat's back. So we're still talking about the cat's body. Its hair stands on end. The cat might even put its ears back and make a hissing sound. Cat, 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 cat. So think about what the topic might be. Every single detail in there was talking, can't get this to forward, whoops, about a cat. So hopefully you guessed that the topic was a cat. Every single detail in there was referring back to the cat. Look at it again. Next thing people always ask you to include in a summary or a gist would be, what's the main idea? Well, an idea is more than a topic. Remember we said for our science fair project we might have plants? Well, the idea that we're testing about plants would be the main idea, okay? Maybe I want to write something about cats. I could have written a paragraph about cat care, how to care for a cat breeds, things I don't like about cats. So the main idea would be those different ways that I elaborated on cats. So if I look back at this, every single sentence in here is talking about its body doing something in response to feeling threatened. So the main idea here, if I ask myself another question, self, what's the main idea? I would ask myself, hey self, what are all these details trying to tell me about cats? What is the author trying to get across to me? And I'd say the author is trying to tell me that cats, and you complete that statement. And when you complete that statement, you've made a main idea statement. So The author wants me to know that cats' bodies react a certain way when they're threatened. Okay? So that's a quick and easy way to try to think of a main idea statement. Now, sometimes when you're younger, you were probably taught that the main idea might be contained in the first sentence, that a main idea sentence could be kind of a little mini summary. It might not be either, especially the older you get, the more sophisticated writing gets. The author might put the topic, allude to the topic in the first sentence, but then they develop that idea. So you could probably get the topic from the first sentence, but the idea gets developed throughout the paragraph, and you need to look at the paragraph as a whole. So that idea that your main idea statement could be a sentence in your paragraph may or may not be true. So don't always depend on that. But sometimes it is true. When you write, your teachers expect you to start each paragraph with a main idea. Maybe you call it a thesis, depends on where you are in school. But that's basically you kind of laying out the main ideas of what you're going to talk about. But it might not necessarily be a summary if it's a long piece of writing. Okay. So I want to talk for a minute about how you know if an idea is important, because one of the rules is you only include important stuff in your summary. Well, I had a student say to me once, Mr. Vera, how do I tell what's important? I think everything's important. And that's a really good question, because I think that sometimes I can remember thinking that when I was a young reader, just getting comfortable with summarizing things myself. So basically, if it's a story, let's talk about literature. If you leave the detail out and the story doesn't change, it's probably not that important. Okay, that's a really good way to tell in the story. If you think about a movie, like let's think about, have you seen The Hunger Games? I don't know if you've seen The Hunger Games or not, but Katniss was really good with, she was one of the main characters, and she was really good with a bow and arrow. That's important to include because it was her skills with that saved her and got her the attention that she needed. She had a cat. Katniss had a cat. Not because her name's Katniss, she just had a cat. And even though it's it shows a soft side to her, it's not really important. I wouldn't include it in a summary of the story because her having a cat or not really wouldn't change the plot of the story. So if you've seen that, you might know that. If you think about the story of the Grinch, that might be a story that we all know really well. The Grinch being living way off by himself, that's important. We need to know that he's isolated. All the mean things that he does, we probably don't need to know all of them. Only the things that cause the plot to progress, only the things that made him interact with characters would be the mean things that we might want to include. So those are some things to think about. If it's informational text, we've got some other tricks for you to think about. But again, if you leave it out and you would still understand that main idea, it probably wasn't important. If it doesn't fit right under that category of what you've decided is the main idea, it probably doesn't need to go in the summary. We'll do some practice, don't worry. Maybe skip this slide. Yeah. What to include in a summary. So when you actually get to where we're writing the summary, here's some rules that you can think about, okay? You can look at the piece of text, and when things are repeated, if you mark through the things that are repeated, not the first time they're said, but the other times they're said, you'll start to see what's left and what's important. So be looking for information that the author says a few times. Now, if repetition is a sign that something's important, I mean, I only repeat and nag about the rules that are important, right? Repetition, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that, do this, do this, do this. But as far as taking the text and trying to remove details to kind of leave the gist, if something's repeated, you can take it out. Again, leaving out that information that's not important. So if it doesn't help you understand the overall main idea, it's probably not important. And you might want to, in a summary, you are looking to make categories or to list things that are important. Titles of something can help to indicate to you if something is important or not. And the title is also usually a category. So if I'm reading a paragraph about the different flowers that'll grow well in my area, maybe the title is Central Florida Flowers, and then or Central Florida Gardening. And then in the article, it lists a whole list of plants by name. So maybe it says hibiscus, palm, croton, and you could, in your summary, you're not going to list all those out, okay? You're going to list the title or the category that they would fall under. Or you look for steps in there that you could follow. So we'll look at some of those things when we get to them. Okay. So on the next couple of slides, you're going to see an opportunity to read and practice some of these steps to making a good summary. All right. All right. Where'd it go? There it is.